Welcome to Grief and Media, a podcast where we laugh, cry, feel seen in our grief, and everything in between. I'm your host, Alex Piscatelli. Let's get into it. We are back for another episode of Grief and Media, and today we will be talking about Gilmore Girls, girlhood, and losing our mothers. Today I am joined by a fellow Alex, which I absolutely love. Alex Jenks, welcome to Grief and Media.
Yes, thank you for having me. I know, Alex to Alex. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, I know. It's truly the best name. And also, anytime I meet someone that's a girl, Alex, I'm like, well, love her. Like, I feel like that's the best.
It all started with Wizards of Waverly Place for me. I was like, Alex is in. Like, I am definitely keeping this and going with it.
Well, know what? When that came out, I remember being so upset because I would be on Neopets all the time and people would go by Miley because of Hannah Montana. And I was like, great, now there's going to be thousands of Alexes and that's not even going to be people's real name.
That's so funny. Do you ever go by Alexandra? Is that your full name?
My name's just Alex.
Okay. Oh, gotcha. Okay, got it.
Yeah, do you tell people, like, how do you decide who to tell Alex versus Alexandra? This is like a very specific question, but
for the longest time, my mom was the only person that called me Alexandra.
Yeah.
And then my family, my cousins, aunts, and uncles, they all call me Allie. And then all my friends call me Alex. And my boyfriend and my boyfriend's family all call me Alexandra. So I'm kind of all of it to everybody, but I also love it.
Yes. I don't know if you've seen Selling the OC yet, but there's 5 different people named Alex on that show. And they all go by like there's an Alexandra Jarvis. So they call her Jarvis. It's all the different names. So we would fit in on that show as well.
No, we would be perfect. We would be so perfect.
Yeah. Someone get us on. We can sell real estate. Let's do it. I want to start off by asking you to tell me about your mom. And she's really the one who I think brings you to Grief and Media. So I'd love to hear about her, everything you're willing to share. I want to hear all about her.
Yes. My wonderful mother. So I go back and forth by saying is and was. I don't know if you do the same thing. Sometimes I go was and is, but my mother's name is Victoria. She was such a special person to so many people, including myself, and just one of those people that walks into a room and it honestly lights up. She was very easygoing, cool, calm, and collected, happy, goofy, just kind of one of those constant forces in my life. And she was the best. She was the best for a lot of people. So it's definitely been a big loss, to say the least. But yeah, she was awesome.
Yeah, I know. I think that is and was. First of all, she sounds amazing. I love that description. She sounds incredible. But I agree that is and was is such a weird thing. I talk about this with people. I feel like I like saying is because I don't know. It's like she still is. Yeah.
Yeah, it is weird. And it's so weird. Even I know we could probably get into all of the words that are so weird to say, but it's so weird to say she is, she was. And so I'm kind of I don't know, I'm just going to say it and not really think about it.
So can you tell me about when you lost her and sort of how much you want to whatever you want to share with that?
Yeah, of course. So, I feel like I'm fairly new to grief. She passed away in November of last year. So it has been around 6 months. I didn't even know the timeline. The other day, my friend was like, yeah, you're coming up on 6 months. And I was like, what? It's all just felt like this big blur for me. And time, I guess, flies, but also stands still at the same time. So November, my mom she had pancreatic cancer. She was diagnosed with cancer right after I graduated college. So July of 2021. And fought cancer for 2 years or so. And which was crazy because when you hear pancreatic cancer, it's kind of like the end all be all. I remember telling people oh, my mom has cancer. What kind? Pancreatic. Ooh.
Ugh, yeah.
I'm like, yeah, no, not the best. But my mom, interestingly enough, never wanted to know like the stage she was at when she was
Right.
diagnosed, which was kind of confusing for me in the beginning. But she just really, I think it said a lot about her character that she was like, I'm really not gonna let this define me, and I'm just gonna like live how I live and try and fight and do all the things I feel comfortable doing. And that's kind of just how it was. And she lived for 2 years or so after the diagnosis, and was the best. Like, she never let on that she was struggling. She never, and we would be like, Mom, like, you literally have cancer. Like, it's okay for you to like scream and be angry and like be mad. And she's like, I do. Trust me, I get that way. But it just was so her. She was a very
Right.
positive person. And she just always was like, but how about you? I'm like, you know? So yeah, she passed November of
Mhm.
2023, and she was doing okay. They had tried various like chemotherapies. They did a little bit of radiation. She was becoming very like spiritual, and she kind of started doing like more holistic approaches towards the end. But then towards the last couple weeks, it was like definitely a shutdown. She went on to hospice care, like, I don't know the exact dates, but I want to say like a Monday. And then my brothers and I, my dad and my boyfriend, were all supposed to fly back east. We're all from New
Mhm.
Jersey, side piece, but go back east to go to a wedding. And we were kind of nervous about going, but she was like, go, I'm going to be okay. Like, I will be here when you get back. We were like, okay. And when we flew back, I remember, like, long story short, I just had a really weird feeling like the whole trip. We weren't talking as much as we used to. We would talk
Mhm.
literally every day, like text, call, whatever. And my aunt had like overnight flown from New Jersey to California and called me and was like, hey, sweetie, like I just landed the night before, woke up the next morning to a phone call. And it's just like, hey, your mom's not doing so good. You and your brothers should come over. And then that was kind of like the last, it was like a day long of her being, like kind of, I don't know, she was like conscious but unconscious. She wasn't speaking, she was
Right.
nonverbal. And within that time, we had a lot of really sad and really beautiful moments with her that like
Mhm.
last day. Like a lot of my friends, a lot of conveniently her college besties who she's kept in contact with since college, and they hang out every year. They're so cute. They have a group chat. Her college best friends were there, and that weekend just because they were planning to visit. And her sister, my aunt, and my uncle, and kind of a lot of her favorite people were all together like that last day with her, and we all shared stories about her and talked to her. And I had some friends come up and visit with her and just kind of like get us through
Right.
that day. And then yeah, it was kind of like after that, I think it's like 12, 14 hours or something, and then she passed away with myself, my two brothers, my dad, my boyfriend, and my aunt all
Mhm.
surrounding her. So it was obviously
Right.
crazy and awful and sad. But I just feel really blessed that I kind of got that time to just like be with her and share with her, and hear people talk about her. And her phone was getting flooded with text messages from people all throughout her life that like meant something to her, and she meant something to them, and just sharing stories on stories. We would read them out loud to her, like in
Yeah.
her room. And it was crazy because I remember they told us that she had been nonverbal pretty much like all night. And the morning my brothers and I got there, we went into the room and she just looked very out of it. But her eyes like got bigger when she
Mhm.
saw us, and she told us that she loved us, and she said her last words to us are just be good. Be good, be good. And that was like the last thing, and that was so her. Like it was all just so her and so special because she loved my brothers and I so hard, and we knew that like every single day of our lives. So yeah, a big
Right.
loss to lose your mom. I know you know
Definitely.
that. So
Oh,
yeah.
thank you for sharing that. I mean, just hearing the amount of love that she had around her, I think is a really beautiful thing. And yeah, those are beautiful last words too. It made me think. I don't think I've shared this like publicly anywhere, but my mom's last words, because she also had cancer, and it was sort of the same situation. Like the last few days, it was like she was nonverbal and really sleeping the whole time. But we were in Massachusetts, and there
Mhm.
was a snowstorm that weekend, and I remember like I was just like she was in a lot of pain, so she was taking morphine like every hour basically.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and so the snow was happening and the storm was happening, and I just she looked outside and she was like, "Oh, look at the snow. Do you like it?" Like she asked me that. She was like, "Do you like it? Is it nice?" And it just made me think, because everything, I don't know, everything so revolved around her, like making sure we were comfortable and we were happy and we were enjoying what was going
Aw.
on. And so I think it's really sweet too how you were saying. I mean, it's so like a mom thing. Like both of our moms,
So
yeah,
mom
like her,
sending.
both of them
So
having
mom
cancer and
sending.
being like, "Oh, but I'm good." Like everything. Don't worry about me.
Mhm.
Like, how are you?
Don't even look at me.
So I love that. Your mom sounds so wonderful, and I loved hearing about her.
Yeah, no, and I think it's such a testament about moms is like they're always going to be a mom until the day they die and even
Right.
further on. It's just it's such a cool thing, and it's such a hard thing for the people that they leave behind too. So.
How has the grieving process been for you these last 6 months, and even before the 6 months, but these last few months for you?
Yeah, I think for me, honestly, I definitely get a little teensy bit of my mom's glass half full, everything is going to be okay mindset, in the fact that I truly believed that my mom was beating cancer, living till the end. Like a lot of my family members have expressed that they sort of like the anticipatory grief, like grieved year right when she got her
Right.
diagnosis. um, I feel like I did not do that. I feel like I literally just held on so strong to like this feeling of like, it's gonna be okay, it's gonna be fine. And so when it happened, obviously it's like the first day or so is like just shock. And just like, what? I feel like the first one thing I do know is that I took about this sounds crazy to say it now, but I took a week
Mm-hmm.
off of work and then I went back to work
Right.
after a week, which for me, it felt right in the moment because I was like sitting at home, not really doing anything, feeling very depressed and confused and scared and anxious, and was like, I know what will distract me, my job. And I went into work. And all of my coworkers and everyone has been super understanding of my situation. But as kind of time went on, I think it kind of hit me like, maybe I came back a little
Mm-hmm.
too soon. And coworkers, people in my life would always kind of say that to me, and it always kind of would be like, okay. I was like, they'd be like, wow, you came back to work really fast. And I used to not like it because I'd be like,
Mm-hmm.
okay,
Mm-hmm.
to you. But then I would think about it and I kind of was like, yeah, I think they were a little bit right. And I came back a little too soon. And so throughout that, I don't know, the first couple months were like very just like standstill. We had Thanksgiving like 2 weeks after she passed. And then we had Christmas like the month after. That was really weird having it without her. Um, my family and I still tried to like be in the spirit. And honestly, the days we did have, they were like fun, like, but it was still weird and confusing and just, felt like something was missing. I have such a good support system in my boyfriend Rob. He has impressed me and shown me so much throughout this grieving process and never makes me feel like I can't talk about it, and now I'm going to get emotional. Never, he just never makes me feel like, I can't be sad or I can't be mad or I can't reminisce or like talk about my mom all the time or not talk about her. And he and I were dating before she passed, so he got to know her. And they really loved each other. And like, I could just tell my mom was like, he is a good one. Like, he is going to be a good one. And, they had like a special moment together too on her very last day. And he has just been a huge rock for me throughout all of this. I always, my friends that don't live in the area, like a lot of them still live in San Diego, they'll say like, yeah, we don't know where you'd be without Rob. Like, I don't think I would be doing as, I don't know about well or okay, but just like getting through, he really does help me a lot. And my brothers and my dad moved down here right after she passed, but having them nearby is awesome. I love my brothers with all my heart. Big family girl, big friend girl. And yeah, just all my friends that have shown support and driven here randomly and surprised me or just have checked in with me. Like, Rob's family has been amazing. All of these people have just been super helpful in like my healing journey. Even though it's also been really hard at the same time and not fun. So I think now I realized to Rob, I looked over at him the other night and I was like, wow, this is like the first night I haven't cried myself to sleep in like a couple of weeks. And he was like, oh, yeah. He was like, wow. And that was, I think, a milestone for me because every single night I would go to bed crying and I would wake up crying. And just because I think it's like the remembering part, it just is awful, especially if you have a dream of them. I don't know if you dream about your mom or your dad often. But just waking up from feeling like, oh, I just had a great conversation with them in my dream and then reality sinking in, those were always the hardest for me. So I'm just trying to like take it day by day. I'm very communicative as a person. I can yap on and on about me forever. So having like a therapist, having people to talk to, it helps me get out all my emotions. And I think that has helped me amidst the really like shitty, awful crying times that are super hard as well.
I'm curious because it sounds like you and I had very similar relationships with our moms where they're our best friends. We're talking to them nonstop throughout the day. Do you like when you're going about your day, like, do you think like how often how do I even ask what I'm trying to say? It's like, do you think about, oh, how do I replace my time now? Like in your day, like do you think about that and how do you sort of navigate that question? Because I think 2 years later, I'm still trying to figure that out.
It's so hard when you're so used to a routine and a comfort space and just someone to like talk to. I listened to your podcast in which you were saying like towards your like late teens, you and your parents started to become like friends more. And I mean, still a daughter, but have an actual adult relationship. And that was like very much my mom and I. So we just like chat, like, what's up, girl? Like, just talk. And um, a lot of times I will be driving, usually when I would leave work or like leave the grocery store or do something, I would always call her. And that was like the hardest thing for me because then I would just sit there and be like, what? Like, I don't really want to listen to music right now. I don't really want to like talk to anyone else. I mean, I could, and I have called other people and it's like helped and distracted me, but I brought it up to my therapist and she was like, she was saying, what was she saying? She's asking me if I journal. And I was like, yeah, I love writing. And I was like, I do love writing. I do love journaling. I think it's just like the actual like talking part that I also miss, just like a conversation. And she was like, would this be crazy to try? And I was like, what? She's like, what if every time you wanted to call your mom or talk to your mom, you pulled out like your voice notes app and you made a recording on your phone and you just said like, hey mom, it's me. And I was like, Well, I do love to talk, as I just said. So I'm like, that could work. And I have done it since. And it honestly is really helpful. I
Really?
Yeah, it's super helpful. Like I pull it out right when I'm about to like want to call her. And I honestly, I don't know if it's like delusional, but I kind of like have a conversation. Like I'm like, "Hi mom." And I think you probably are the same. Like you already know what they would probably say to certain things. So I already have that piece in me of like how it would probably go. But I think acting it out and like getting it off my chest is nice. And I have looked back on them, and some of them have been me just like like uncontrollably sobbing. Some of them have been me having in a great mood because I had a great day at work. Like it just depends. And it really, I mean, obviously it's not the same thing. Like I would give up anything to have that back. Um, but if you want to try it, I think you could, I don't know, just like see. And anyone who's like listening, if they are someone who likes to talk and yab and everything, like it kind of it
Mhm.
kind of does make you sort of feel like you got something off your chest, or you at least got it out, like rather than just inside your head or writing it down or something.
Yeah, wait, I love that because so my mom, one thing she said like in the weeks before she died, like I wrote down a bunch of quotes from her, but one thing was like never stop talking to me. Like always talk to me. I will be there. I will be listening. But I find myself feeling like silly when I talk out loud sometimes. But I wonder if having like the recording, at least it feels like, okay, here's a tangible thing that I'm speaking to rather than just like into the abyss. I almost feel like that. I'm going to try that.
Yeah, and that's what I said to my therapist. I said, sometimes I feel weird when I just sit there and I'm almost like, "Dear God, it's me, Margaret." Like I'm
Yeah,
almost like having this
exactly.
like it's kind of corny. Like I'm like, I don't know, I feel like cheesy doing this. And instead, she was like, "Okay, okay, okay, got it." She's like, "Okay, how about try the recording?" So it makes it feel like, and I feel like maybe for you, since you're so like media
Yeah.
based, it might be something that just feels natural too, and like could be just something to like capture it. I don't know, but yeah, it's really been helpful.
Definitely. Oh, I love that because yeah, it's like you said, it feels so overly dramatic. Like, especially like if I say it out loud, if I like try to talk to like my parents out loud and I'm like crying, especially, I'm like, oh my, I feel like I'm on like a reality TV show. This feels excessive.
It's so funny. It's so funny. And I even think about like what my mom would be thinking. Like if she saw me do that, she'd be like, "Okay, like Alexandra, like all right." Like
See, I feel like my mom would be like, that's great. Why is that weird?
you're like, "Ew, mom, I don't know. It's weird."
That's so funny. Exactly. Well, one thing I really wanted to talk with you about is that you said Gilmore Girls was this show that
Yes.
really helped you through your grief. I want to hear about that. What is it about Gilmore Girls? And when did you start? Have you always been a fan and then started watching again? Like how has that been for you?
Yes, I have always been a fan. I think I watched it when I was like in high school. Um, and I remember I would like my mom would like pop in and like watch it with me because I never had a TV in my room growing up. So I if I wanted to watch something, it was like always in the living room, always in the den or whatever. And so my mom would like pop in and we kind of like watch together. But it was mostly like just a show that I watched and I binged, classically. And so I brought it back like last year, like 2023, sometime in that time frame, and I started rewatching it. And I think when I started rewatching it, at first it I don't know. I just not that my mom reminds me of Lorelai Gilmore because she really doesn't, but at the same time she kind of does because she's like spunky and very witty. My mom was so witty and like everyone was like in love with my mom. Like she kind of just had and she didn't really care. Like she was just kind of like boop bop and like people strangers would like compliment her hair all the time and just like all these things so and I don't super resonate with Rory.
Mhm.
But I think just the mother daughter closeness is what I have always related to
Right.
because I feel like it's not super common that girls are super close with their moms.
Mm-hmm.
At least in my experience with a lot of my friends and just like media in general, I feel like oftentimes mom and daughters are portrayed as very like tumultuous, like she doesn't get me, I don't get her, like she's the worst. And don't get me twisted, like some points in high school we were definitely arguing
Yeah.
like that. um but the overall feeling I had for her was just like close person I could talk to about anything, and we just did all these things together. My mom was a stay-at-home mom for most of my life, which I have always wanted for myself.
Mhm.
I don't know how realistic it is in this economy, but I have always wanted that because I felt like just the fact that I could like see her in the morning right when I got home, like we just did so much together as a family. Um and so yeah, I started watching it, I think just to feel that like closeness and just see it, like just see how great it can be and like feel it again. During my mom's diagnosis, I would often have like days with her where I would like work from home at her house, or like we would just go and do stuff together and just like drive in the car and sing and talk and eat and shop and just like do all the things that I feel like they do in the show.
Mhm.
And interestingly enough, my grandma has always kind of reminded me of Emily Gilmore, but not in the same. My grandma's not like a doesn't have like the snarkiest kind of not like that, but very something about her has always like resonated with me and my grandma. And so I just have always kind of thought of like this trio of women, and it's just like comforting to
Mhm.
watch it. And then after my mom passed, I feel like it's such a blur even thinking about that time
Right.
period. Um, but I was back on Gilmore Girls and was just kind of like, I don't know, I think it would seem like it would be triggering for me, but at the same time, seeing it and feeling it was like a way that I got to like feel that closeness again.
Right.
I've always been someone, it's like I love this trait about me. I also find it really inconvenient sometimes, but I feel things super, super strong, like emotions and like people's feelings. And like I'm always putting myself in other people's shoes. And I just think for me, it was like a way that I got to like live that and just keep up with like what was my mom and I's relationship, even though it was very different than Lorelai and Rory, but that closeness and comfortability and like the banter and just like that kind of stuff, I feel
Yeah,
like.
definitely. I totally agree with you. And I think there's just that like I don't know. It's weird too, the things that are triggering. Something I wanted to bring up on this episode that I don't know why this is like so triggering for me personally. But when I like, this is so like, this sounds so, I hope this doesn't sound super silly, but like when I'm watching a nature show, like animals in nature, and you see like a mother cub or not cub, a mother, like whatever, like animal and they're like babies, like if it's ducks or like a lion and lioness and her cubs or whatever, I that makes me like I can't watch it. Like it makes me
You lose
so
it.
emotional. Like I'm even gonna cry. Like I don't know why. It's like there's something so like innate about a mother daughter relationship that I think
Yep.
when I see it portrayed in such like how nature literally like it's literally nature
Yeah.
to
I could
be
see
close
that.
with your mom and for your mom to take care of you, and that like
Yeah.
affects me a lot. So like you saying the stuff that is triggering, I don't know why that's just something that's so triggering for
Yeah.
me.
No, I totally get that. That makes so much sense to me. I think like just seeing, I mean, obviously like Mother's Day just passed and that was a really hard day for me. I'm sure for many people that lose their mothers. And seeing people like with their relationships with their moms and me, I'm like kind of like jealous in a way. And I'm
Yeah.
like, like it's like these weird feelings because I'm not. I want everyone to have a great thing with their mom, but then I'm like, well, why did I have to lose my mom? Like,
Right.
and certain things definitely are triggering, but I think I haven't watched really a nature one, but I'd be interested to see if that kind of stuff got to me because I could so see why. Like it makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. I think what I love about Gilmore Girls, and I've had friends be like, "Oh, that's you and your mom," and I'm like, "Yes, but like
Yeah,
they are
yeah,
totally. I am certainly not Rory, and my
yeah.
mom wasn't like Lorelai too much either. But I think the close. So I think that's what makes it like more comforting than triggering, at least for me.
It's like a little detached in a way. Like
Yeah,
it's still like you don't I don't for me I don't like necessarily am like yes, that's exactly us,
right.
but I love the closeness of their relationship. So I think I just like love watching it kind of from afar in a way.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I want to talk more about sort of coming of age shows, but before I do that, which like boy of the boys on Gilmore Girls were you the team of?
Oh my God. Okay. So I always kind of felt, especially now watching it, I also have found Rory to be so much more insufferable now than
Yes,
I did
exactly.
than I did in high school. Like she really irks me sometimes, but I felt really bad for how everything went with like Dean. I
Hmm.
kind of felt bad for him, but I wasn't like she needs to get back together with Dean. Um I thought that the Hunter X Rory thing was like fun and
Yeah.
like flirty. He was so cute. I mean, Chad Michael Murray is just so cute in general.
Yes.
Um yeah, and I'm like, sorry, Rob. But um and why am I forgetting Jesse?
Yeah, Jess, yeah.
Yeah. Love Jess, love Jesse, whatever.
Uh-huh.
And even I think it's Logan in the end.
Hmm.
He doesn't like super, super, super do it for me, but I did like kind of the way that I feel like he kind of like pushed Rory, but I will forever be like a Luke stan. Like I just love Luke.
Yes.
I think Luke is the best. Like he's just yeah, we love Luke.
I feel like it was so I haven't rewatched it in a bit. I think I rewatched it like 2021. Honestly, it might have been around the time like my mom got diagnosed. But I feel like why did they do the storyline with Luke having a daughter? Having a daughter. It's so random. It's like why did this have to happen?
It it didn't need to be added. There could have been something else that he like wasn't telling Lorelai about, or like yeah, like it didn't have to be this like whole ass daughter, whole other like woman thing. Like yeah, and then I hate Christopher. Like
Yes.
I just hate the dad that he is, and I hate like
Yes.
I'm like come on Christopher, but I think it's cute when him and Lorelai would like kind of flirt again, like
Uh-huh.
the little like high school like love moment. But then I was like, you're also the worst. Like,
No, totally agreed. I think for me, it's so Team Jess. And one episode that I constantly like rewatch is it's season 3 episode 8. I think I know this because I watch it so much, but it's the dance marathon episode.
yeah,
And it's like her, so Rory and Lorelai, for those who don't remember, are like in a like the town dance marathon or whatever. You have to dance
Mhm,
for like
mhm.
12 hours or whatever it is. And like it's also the episode where like Jess and Rory are really like butting heads, but also it's because they like each other and he's dating that one blonde girl and then she's dating Dean still. And
Yeah,
Dean, because of Jess and Rory's like banter, Dean ends up leaving. And then like she comes back to her mom and is just crying, like when her mom comes back to the room. And I feel like there's something so I there's some the reason I love that episode is so many layers. One, obviously love Jess and her and just their banter. Um,
yeah,
Two, I just think there's something so comforting to me with coming of age shows because
yeah,
it almost feels like with grief, you're sort of it's like that's all you have left is this relationship with your parents when you were younger and you were coming of age, and that's the things you revisit because they won't be here when I have kids or when I'm like more of an adult or whatever it may be. And like I don't know, amid all these big feelings, it's like you always come back to like your mom. You know what I mean? Like you're
yeah,
hugging your mom or whatever. Like that's how Rory was
yeah,
in the end of that episode. And like,
yeah.
I don't know. It's like, I don't know. I don't know what it is about the coming of age stuff, but for that episode is so quintessential that for me.
That's so true. Like just no matter what happens at the end of the day, it's like you just want your mom.
Yeah.
And I so feel that. Like miss the other night. I was like laying in bed and I was just like, I just miss hugging her. I miss hugging her. Like I don't know. It's so many things that I just would like. I remember I would just walk in a room and like my mom would be like, if it isn't my wonderful daughter, like, oh, hello, how are you? How's your day? You look great. What is this? What'd you wear? Da da da. And I literally felt like $1,000,000, like literally just like the best. And I've always felt that way from her. And having that like unconditional and just honestly like liking the other person.
Right.
Like I just really thought my mom was super cool and like beautiful and perfect and just like obviously annoying at times, and she thought the same of me, and you know, frustrating and all those things, but just still like I wouldn't have had it any other way.
Right.
And like yeah, just missing that comfort of that person, it's so real. And it's like you never really replace it. I mean, I think
Right.
some people can like kind of come close to that feeling, but it's like it's once in a lifetime.
Definitely. No, totally. I think cuz up until I mean, I met my husband 2019, so it was 3 years before my mom passed away, like that we had been dating. But I I remember like just the way even though they're the two closest people for me, like the way I would talk to each one would be so different. Like
Yeah.
with my husband, with Jack, like we sort of bounce ideas off of each. Like if I have like something I want to complain about or something I'm excited about, like going to each of them. With Jack, it's more like a back and forth, like sort of like Jack will come up with ideas and all these things too, and which is nice sometimes. But with my mom, it would be like I would just go on rants, and because she was listening to me and I knew it was a completely no judgment zone. Like my mom like is not a big talker. Like I would be the one who would talk and talk and talk the whole time we would
Same.
talk. Yeah. And like I think I would literally, her and I would go on like 30-minute walks cuz she loved to do her daily walk. And we would go on walks, and the whole time I would just be ranting about something, but it would make me come up with like this idea and that idea, and like it would all be stuff like that I was coming up with because I knew I was in this safety of talking with her and being able to like go through my whole entire thought process with her.
Yep.
And like we would end a walk and I'd be like, and that's my rant of the day. And she would just like smile to herself. And I don't know. Yeah. It's like there's no one like to fully do that with, because
No.
with anyone else, it's like, okay, they have idea. I don't know. Not that like my mom didn't have ideas too, but it's like with other people, it's like with friends, it's like you sort of have to like accommodate for both. But with your mom, it's like she's your
Yes.
mom. Like she can just
Yep.
listen to you and doesn't need
Yep.
to, I don't know, understands if you don't need anything else from it than to just a
Yeah.
listening ear.
Totally. You're so relatable in that to me. So relatable. My
Yeah.
mom lived for her daily walk. We would always we would always go on our little walk. And she was very much a listener,
Yeah.
not super a talker. When she gave advice, it was always good,
Mm-hmm.
granted, but it was definitely the space for me to ramble my head off, and for her to like interject every once in a while and be like, oh, and kind of like, well, oh, that's weird. And, you know, those little things, but mostly me. And then, just like you said, I came up with a solution. And then, if that doesn't work, I'll do this. And then this here. And then this is what I'm going to do. And then
Yes.
at the end, I'm like, that was really good. It's like,
Totally.
it's just like mini, like almost like a mini, like therapist comfort space. Someone to just like listen to all the ideas that come out of your head and not judge you on them.
Right.
Like just receive them and then maybe give you like a hug afterwards, and then, you know, on to lunch or whatever. Like
Yes.
it just is like, yeah, so that's so relatable.
Wait, I love that. And I'm curious for your mom's advice, because for mine, when she would give advice, it would be, I can like hear it in my head when like someone, like me and Jack are talking about a situation, or like a friend comes to me for like to talk about something. Like I can always in my head hear what my mom would say about it. And she would be so like blunt about things. She would be like, well, why are they doing that? Or like, why is this happening? Or just don't do that. Like she'd be
Yeah.
so blunt. So I'm curious if
Oh
you hear
yeah.
your mom's voice too when like you want to
Literally
give advice.
all the time. I hear her all the time. She was very like, yeah, just don't do that. Like, but I can't not do that because da da da, like there's a million things. And she also was very like, I don't know, my mom was, she like was here for like the gossip and the tea, but
Mhm.
she also would like definitely be like, okay, we don't like really need to be going into this. And sometimes that would bother me because I'd be
Aw.
like, no, I want more. Like, let's keep going. And she would just be like, you're better than that. Like, she would
Aw.
always tell me, you're better than that. Or like, well, they don't know that about you. Or, well, maybe they're going through something. It's like, it was always like this like peaceful resolution that I'm
Yes.
like, yeah, like, okay, you're right. And I think that just maybe comes with like age and like the person that she was too. And just very much like, let's just take the peaceful route. And I'm like ramped up about something. So, so
Totally.
funny.
No, same. My mom would, I can hear my mom being like, just let it go, like about certain
Yeah,
things.
just let it
But
go.
my mom would have
That's
zingers. Like she would roast me occasionally, like just say like one line that was like such a like read on someone
yeah,
too. Like
yeah.
if she gave input on someone I was complaining about, like it would be the
Yeah.
biggest zinger, like that they could not
Yeah.
recover from.
100% because I think when they are like someone who keeps their opinions or like a lot of those things to themselves, it's like when it comes out, it's like you do not want to be on the receiving end of that because that
Exactly.
was so my mom. Like if she didn't like, even for me, like maybe she didn't like an outfit I was wearing, she'd like say it in this way that I'd be like, oh my God, like okay. And just like yeah, like friends or people that were like mean to me at school or I don't know, whatever the drama was. And she's like, oh, honey, da 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 da. And I'm like, damn, like, oh my God.
Exactly. No, literally
So
so
funny.
same. I love that so much. Well,
That's hilarious.
I want to talk a little bit more about sort of coming of age shows and movies and
Yes.
stuff. Are there any other ones that you have revisited? Because I'll name one that I found to be one I revisited last year, and I don't know why I loved watching it. Did you ever watch MTV's Awkward?
Yes, I have seen Awkward.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that one, because I remember it came out because she was like the whole series started, she was a sophomore, and like she basically the very first like 5 minutes is like she trips and falls because she finds this note that is like very mean, like saying like you need to like start being like cool or like normal or like handle yourself better or whatever. And then she like falls, but the bath is running, and then like the hair dryer falls in the bath and like pills all fall. So it like everyone thinks she like tried to commit suicide.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's just how the show starts. And it was her sophomore year of high school. And it was also my sophomore year when it premiered. So I was like, this show's great. And there's definitely some like problematic and questionable parts to it, but
Sure.
it's and there's a mother-daughter relationship in that, and it's similar to Gilmore Girls because she like the mother had the daughter when she was like 16 and really young, and they're not like it's close, but it explores like their relationship throughout the series. But there was something so comforting to it, I think, because I watched it in high school and I was like, this is just nice to like revisit and feel like I'm a kid again, but also like
Yeah.
thinking of all these themes, like we were saying before, of being a kid and having your parents there too.
Yeah, totally. I will have to rewatch Awkward because I feel like I remember so like tiny little blips and pieces, but yeah, that'd be interesting to see that relationship unfold. And that was
Yeah.
such a funny show. I always remember watching that show.
It was the you're welcome of it all.
Yes, the girl, you're welcome. Yeah.
Me and Jack quote all the time because she would call it, because the main character's name is Jenna Hamilton, and Sadie is the character who would be like super mean to everyone, and she would call her like Hamilton, like Hamilton, like all these names, and it's so fun. Iconic,
That's so
truly.
funny. Yeah, truly. I remember to be like awkward dot. Like that was like the title of the show. Oh my gosh, that's so good. Yeah, I will definitely need to revisit that.
Aw.
This isn't what I was gonna say, but within that, for some reason it reminded me of kind of the same idea-ish. But in the movie Easy A, where
Yes.
like Emma Stone's kind of being like, told, like, she wears a scarlet letter and there's all these things happening at school, but she can like go home and her family is like, you're the best, honey. Like, what are they even
Yes.
talking about? Like, and she's like, no, mom. Like, oh, I get it. But like, and they're just like, but don't listen to them. Like, who cares? Like, your little brother loves you. And just like that just piece reminded me of it too, where it's like so much could be happening at school, but then like you come home and your family's just like, what'd you do today? Like, how was your day? And you're like, awful. And they're like, well, do you want to talk about it? Or like, let's just eat dinner. Like, you're fine. And yeah, it would just be like the two parallels of how real life felt at school and then like life at home and just being like
Yes.
comfortable at home. That just kind of reminded me. I don't know if that's really on par, but
No, that
it just
is.
popped into my head.
I love that. I that makes me think too when I remember the first time I like cried about a boy like in front of my parents. Like it was this guy that I had a whole history with, but in high school specifically at this time, like it was a whole thing. We're going to hang out. And like me and my best friend, Megan, who I'm still best friends with, were like, I was going to admit my feelings for him. So we were like planning this whole thing and I was going to see him in person. And then we ended up like, I was at Olive Garden with my parents and I got a text that he like couldn't come anymore that night. And so I was like, no, like, and I cried to my parents and it's just like that sort of safety of like, yeah, just having them there. And so I feel like Easy A has that safety, which is a really beautiful thing too.
Totally, totally. My favorite movie of all time, is Mamma Mia. And that is just like classically mother daughter, and then also just like the singing and the friendships and the men and all those things. It's not so much like teenage coming of age, I would say, but there's like a lot of like the kind of like growth and seeing your parents as like they were just teenagers too one day and that kind of stuff. Like those shows for me are super comforting. I don't really watch it anymore, but I used to watch Jane the Virgin
Oh, I
a
haven't seen
lot.
that one.
It's like, and I remember when I watched it, I like really liked it and binged it. And that was probably in high school and I haven't gone back to it ever. But she's really close with her mom in the show and kind of always like relies on her for like the emotional support. And it's kind of like her mom's kind of more like out there and she's a little bit more like reserved. So it's kind of like Lorelai and Rory in a way, but that's not the main focus of the show. It's just like a side element, which is really cool. Yeah, I like that as well.
Yeah, something I wanted to ask about Mamma Mia specifically, because I love that and I didn't really think of that as much. But
Yeah.
something I've been thinking about a lot and exploring is this concept of like, oh, we're like, it's obviously the trend on TikTok of like, oh, I'm just a girl or whatever is just a girl. And I think
Yeah.
about that with my mom because it's like for so long, I just saw her as I saw her as my mom. Like she knows everything. She is the expert at life, basically. But
Mhm.
at the end of the day, she's just a girl too. And I love that Mamma Mia, you sort of see, okay, this mom has this whole past love life and is present love life and is figuring out all these things. Do you think about that, like the concept of girlhood when it comes to your mom? And I don't know how much you two had talked about like her when she was younger, when she was alive. Like how has that been for you thinking about that sort of concept?
I always say I would live to like go back in time and watch my mom and my dad and just like certain people when they were like teenagers in their 20s, even like younger, just to like see who they were.
Right.
Because it's so true. You only get a blip of like who they are at that time. And it's like, that's mom. But like before mom, she was this, and this. And yeah, I think she and I were very different as like girls. Like she was much more of a tomboy than I ever was. She just was she could play a ton of sports. I love music, but she actually like played certain music. She just was very like, I think probably we were probably similar in the way that I'm similar with her today, like our sense of humor and kind of like outlook on life. But she probably didn't care as much about like makeup and clothes as much as I do and those kinds of things that are different. And yeah, just kind of like learning more about her. Like I loved when she would tell me about like high school or college and that's another reason I love that my mom is best friends still with like her college friends, because they all have like daughters now that are similar to my age, and just seeing old pictures of them and like them telling their stories and being like, no, it was Marty, no, it was Eric, and like just like all those things are so funny. And my mom's also really close with her high school friends. Like one thing about my mom is like she had a ton of friends who I still see like to this day, and I think that has been happy and hard for me at the same time now, because I'm kind of like, well, I don't know. I've always been a kid that like loves adults. Like I've always like loved like my mom's friends and like hanging out with the adults, and like I would literally like spend, even now, like when we would hang out with them, like I'd be up drinking wine with them as well. Like it was just, it's like fun to me. And now I think about it like I'm not really gonna have that as much anymore because my mom, I'm like, those aren't my friends, girl. Like those are my mom's friends. And not that they're not gonna ever, we're not gonna see each other or talk, but it's just not gonna be the same. And you're not gonna hear
Right.
as much and the stories and that stuff. So it's interesting, and I won't spend too much more time on this little part, but I recently found this file that my mom, one thing I've been learning about my mother is she had receipts of everything. Like this woman has kept every expense from 2016 receipt, every like journal, every childhood thing of me and my brothers. Like she just kept
Yeah.
everything. And I found a portfolio of hers from a writing class she took in 1991. So she was like 28, living in New York City, being like a baddie, and wanted to take a writing class. She also loved writing, was super good at writing. And I found all these like stories about like how she felt about like her childhood home and her parents and her siblings, and how she felt as a kid, and stuff with her own grandparents and holidays. And it was really cool to like read that through the lens of a 28-year-old, like just like da, 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 this is me and this is who I am. And you don't really get that as a daughter because they're being a mom the whole time. And then when you grow up, you're like, wait, I want to know about you. Like, what were you
Right.
like? What did you do? And so it's been cool to find those for sure.
Definitely. Oh my gosh, I love that you found that.
Yeah.
I had something similar where I found there was this box that my aunt had given me that my of like stuff my mom had mailed to her mom, like my nana, who passed away when I was young, but she like it was like my sister's 8 years older than me. And so it would be like baby photo. So my mom had my sister, she was 41 when she had me. I think she was like, because my sister's 8.5 years older. I don't know. She's something like 30, 32 or 33, something like that when she had my sister. So I'm like, that's not far off from like how old I am now because I'm 28 now. So I'm like, okay, wait. Okay, so this is like remnants of how she was when I was basically a similar age to I am now. But she would send like the printed out like photos of my sister as a baby and use those as postcards. And so the back of the photo would be like a little note, and it would be like she would use like my sister's, like she would say like love Pia or whatever, like from Pia, like a
That's
thing.
so
Pia's
cute.
my sister's it but yeah, and it was just like to Nana, love Pia, like here's me like doing blah blah blah. And it was just so like I don't know, because my Nana died when I was really young, I never really got to explore my mom's relationship with her own mom. Like in seeing that and thinking of the, I don't know, the closeness that I feel with my mom, like she felt that with her mom. And it's just like this whole, I don't know, I guess cycle I want to continue, but cycle that we had.
For sure.
And I don't know where that originated. You know what I mean? Like, was my Nana close with her
Yeah.
mom too?
Started
And
this. Yeah.
yeah, so it's just, I feel like that's really beautiful to see. And just, you can relate to them on a deeper level when you see those sort of younger things too.
Totally. It's so cool. And so yeah, I would just like love to see my parents when they were young, and even when they were like dating at first, because my parents were divorced later on in life, but back when they were like new and flirty, and I'm like, I would probably be like, ew, but I also would like love to see it at the same time.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, this has been so wonderful to talk with you. I feel such a kinship with you because of your relationship with your mom. I feel like it feels like, I don't know. I really enjoy talking with you. I'm gonna cry, but this is really nice.
Yeah, I feel like it has been like, I feel like we have so many alignments and like similarities over things, like let alone our name. I just feel like it's kind of crazy, but I've loved talking with you. Like I said, I am so excited for like this project for you. I think it's so cool what you're doing, and so like, I don't know, I just love it. So I was happy about it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
Thank you so much for listening to Grief and Media. If you liked this episode, please rate and review. Check out our media database, newsletter, essays, and more at griefandmedia.com. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram at griefandmedia. Okay, thank you so much for listening. Love you all. I'll see you next time.